damn card open.
Okay. Well, we'll wait for you to...
I got one more piece to get out of here.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
You're
we're here
filming
with...
already. I see the red light on.
Yeah, we're here with John Lahr.
Yeah. Well, yeah, my name is John Lahr, and I discovered after I had a grand mal seizure on February 16th that I had a brain tumor. And 4 days later, on the 19th, in Corvallis, a biopsy was done and determined that it was a glioblastoma multiforme brain tumor, which was not particularly good news. It's like a stage 4 malignant brain cancer. If there was any good news, it was the location was related to the right frontal lobe. I'm right-handed, so the left lobe is more important. The right lobe is not so important. And so that was in February. Then we did a lot of study to figure out what to do next. Determined that a really good surgeon was a Dr. Berger at UCSF here in San Francisco. And we talked to him in March. And he went ahead with a what they call a resection, basically removing as much of the tumor as you can in an operation on the 10th of March. So now this is April 3rd, so it's been like 3 weeks and 3 days or something of that order since my surgery. There are absolutely no complications from the surgery. My scar is healing up. I haven't had headaches. I have no residual effects other than being a little bit, maybe it's a little bit of a veil over my awareness sometimes that I wouldn't have had before. But effectively, no motor problems, vision problems, any of the other things you can imagine that could result from a problem in the brain. And the plan action now is to start in the next week. I think on the 8th or the 9th, I will start on chemotherapy and radiation. The chemotherapy will be Temodar and a trial for a drug called enzostarin. And the radiation will be the standard radiation where they try to really apply a lot of radiation to about a 2 centimeter zone around the tumor, around where the tumor was removed. If there's a recurrence, it's most likely to happen in that area, so that's the area where they know they have tumor cells to deal with. That treatment here at UCSF will continue for about 6.5 weeks. Then there's about a year of treatment, which is just the enzostarin and Temodar, and that part we can do up in Corvallis. It's basically just pills, so I don't have to do, I don't have to have a port and do any kind of intravenous chemotherapy. I guess that's the rundown. I'm obviously very happy to be alive. I'm happy that when my grand mal seizure occurred, that I was not driving my car, and so I didn't have some sort of horrible accident. I wish I could think of somebody to complain about, but I can't really right now. I've been very lucky. The hospital staff and the nurses, everything were really wonderful. And obviously the doctor I selected based on, no effects from the surgery, I'd have to say he's high in my list of people too. Probably basically owe my life to Dr. Berger. And so fingers crossed that this therapy will give me another year or two at least, maybe with luck 3 or 4, and enough time for the researchers to come up with even better methods of dealing with brain tumors in the future.
Well, we certainly hope that for you, John. And our hearts are all with you. So
Thank you.
thank you for visiting with us today and with me and lunch and everything.
Yeah, well, thank you for lunch. That was very good. And I'm not going to apologize for it because I enjoyed every bit of it.
Okay, we're here with John Lahr. We're here in the Golden Gate Park area, right next to the merry-go-round.
Yeah, and we just visited the art studio where they seem to have some painting and stained glass upstairs, and it looked like pottery, probably both working in clay as well as painting pots and things that have been put from a mold in the lower part. So this is a really nice, another nice feature of this park, which has so many amazing buildings.
So you're going to be here for 5-6 weeks, John?
Yeah. The actual therapy starts next Wednesday, as it is planned, and goes for 6 or 6.5 weeks. And after that point, we will go back to Corvallis, and we'll be done with the radiation and the early parts of chemotherapy, and then you just continue chemo for another year with periodic trips down to UCSF so that they can do a physical assessment and see how you're doing.
You could have the MRIs done up there, though.
I can have MRIs done in Corvallis, and they can send the results down. So when I come down, it won't take as long. They'll just look at the MRIs and they'll look at me physically without having to actually run the MRI down here. So that's the future, it sounds like, for about the next year or so. And the therapy I'm taking is this, what they call the gold standard, which is radiation and Timidar. Plus, I'm in a trial for another drug called enzostarin. And enzostarin is one of the drugs that reduces the body's ability to make new capillaries. And that's probably not good for the whole body, but it's particularly hard on cancer cells because they like to make a lot of new capillaries really fast in order to grow fast. So that kind of reduces the ability of the cancer to grow rapidly, and the Timidor, I think, actually kills cancer cells, plus radiation kills cancer cells. So, with any luck, this will be a successful treatment
and a good life extension.
Yeah, and a life extension sufficiently long that they come up with a real plan within a couple of years, and if there is any recurrence, then I'll get to the next level of therapy that they figure out.
And regardless, you'll have a good quality of life for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing, is the present.
Yeah. Well, every day has to be a good day, and as Jerry never forgot, it's the wonder of life that we have to appreciate every day.
Yeah. So, you and I went through Jerry's death, and you were saying the teachings that he taught you, you were prepared to use 30 years from now. Now that you've gotten this brain tumor and these resulting things makes it more consciously possible for you to leave sooner than the 30 years that you had planned. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, well, of course I had no inkling at the time that Jerry was going through his cancer that I'd be in a similar boat within a year or so of his death. And he is, I think he was a model in my mind of how to deal with end-of-life issues. He was realistic about it. He accepted joining hospice when it was appropriate. He was not overly worried about dying. I think so. It reminds me a bit of my father, who did live to be 95. They're models, they're good models to try to follow, and it's not going to be necessarily that easy when it really is me instead of somebody else. But that's my hope, is to be as with it and as make use of every day as well as Jerry did toward the end of his life.
I wish that for all of us.
Absolutely. And maybe the blessing in disguise is that if let's say in 2 years from now I'm dead. In one scenario I have brain cancer and I have an inkling that's pretty likely. The other scenario is I'm healthy and I have an auto wreck and I die suddenly. There's certain advantages to knowing that the probability is low that you're going to make it past a couple of years. So, I might as well take advantage of that knowledge in order to savor every moment I do have left.
And don't you know that's why you were saved? Because if you had your seizure in a car, that could have been it.
Yeah.
Sure. It's like your bonus now.
Yeah.
Your bonus time.
Yeah. If I were driving 60 miles an hour or 70 miles an hour on I-5 or on Highway 34 or 20 over to Albany and had a seizure, I hate to think what the result would have been for me and other cars if I hadn't hit them.
Yep. Yeah, well, that's the worst part, isn't it? Not that you'd necessarily kill yourself, but that you'd harm somebody else in the process.
Yeah. I don't know exactly all the rules for driving. I know I'm not supposed to drive now, and I'm not going to drive. But I think there's some procedures eventually for being able to drive again. I think you probably have to retake a driver test, and we'll just see if I can get to that point.
I do know that one seizure does not make an epileptic. And since there was a cause for your seizure, that they know what it was, they can't say that it's a repeatable situation. My friend Wally had a seizure, and it was a one-time seizure from lack of oxygen in his brain. And they fixed that, and he got his pilot license back.
Oh,
and so he's still flying.
Yeah.
So that's...
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, that's something that I've got to work out in Oregon when we get back there. Find out what the laws are. I don't want to violate any laws, and I don't want to harm anybody or take any risks whatsoever. At the same time, it's going to be a real amazing crimp not to be able to drive. So, we'll see.
But it's a wonderful opportunity for your friends to serve you in that capacity.
Yes. Yeah. Hopefully they look at it the same way.
Yes. Indeed, I'm sure they do. I mean, it's a gift. It's a gift. The whole thing is a gift. It's not just a gift that you have extra time. It's a gift that we have extra time with you. It's all a gift. It's a gift to be able to video you and share this with somebody else that could be in a similar situation. I mean, where do you stop?
Yeah, I'm going to be visiting this afternoon with a person that had a similar brain tumor diagnosed, I think, in 2006. And he went through, I don't think he did a trial, he just went through the chemo and the timidar. And in the most recent scans, they found no evidence of remaining tumor. So he's, making it 2 years doesn't guarantee you're going to go a long time, but it's certainly on the way.
He had a GBM?
I think so, but that's I'll find out later today when we meet him.
And this is a person that you...
It's a friend. It's the brother-in-law of the person that I worked with at USGS for years and years and years. So that should be... It should be really good to talk to somebody who's gone through it, just to find out also what it was like on the chemo and radiation part of it.
Well, hopefully you'll be talking to me and reporting in on what that process is like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like very much to share that process
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they say 25,000 people a year have GBMs like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and how come I know so many people that have GBMs? What is going on? I think the statistics are wrong, or I am attracted to GBMs.
Yeah, you're attracted to maybe.
Or maybe I'm the source of it.
Yeah, you're carrying some kind of chemical which creates a GBM. Who knows?
Ooh,
I doubt this.
I doubt this very much, but let us hope that that's not the case.
Yeah.
Well, and with that note,
Yeah. Well, 25,000 out of
I'd be walking around.
50 million. So that's is that one in a 1 in 10,000?
Yes.
Yeah.
1/100th of 1%.
Yeah. Because I've never known anybody else with a GBM, so that makes sense given that statistic.
And I know 4 people.
Wow.
Let alone how many people I met with GBMs through dealing with
Sure.
Ken and his GBM. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about people that I met unrelated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. One question I have: did Ken ever go down to the Mount Zion Center? Apparently, they have.
This is in.
It's part of UCSF. They have a number of different campuses, and this campus really deals with the nuts and bolts of surgery and radiation.
Yes, the Mount Zion is on Divisadero.
Yeah.
Yes.
And apparently they have more of the materials related to counseling, groups, videos, the quality of life issues related to cancer.
We never did any of that.
Okay.
Ken dealt with Stanford. He did an MRI at Mount Zion once, and we interviewed Dr. Cunningham and Dr. Berger up here for the potential of the second surgery, but we wound up going with Dr. Reich in Stanford and Dr. Hendrickson in Stanford for the second surgery as well.
Okay.
Kept with the same staff. He felt comfortable with them, and he felt comfortable at that hospital.
How long was it from the first surgery to the second surgery?
The first surgery was May the 8th, and the second surgery was August 10th.
Of the same year?
Of the same year, 3 months later.
So this was because of a recurrence, or?
Yes. He didn't like the idea of chemo and radiation did not please Ken, and after looking at other possibilities, we found this Brzezinski clinic, which turned out to be very bogus and cumbersome and horrible. And in the month that we were gone, his tumor grew to 110% where it was before the surgery.
Okay.
So that was his experience with alternative treatments. Had he have done the original treatment, they guaranteed that it wouldn't be more than a year and a half. I mean, they didn't guarantee, but
they figured it would be a year and a half before you might have to have another surgery.
No, you could never have a second surgery because of where his tumor was on the base of his brain stem, and it was pressuring his equilibrium and his cognitive thoughts, and it was a big compromise for him on a daily basis. And he didn't like the idea of having the chemo and radiation, and so we did this first round. And since we didn't do the chemo and radiation, he was pristine, and they could basically open him up in the same spot and pop it out again. And then he did the chemo and radiation, and from that point, it was a year. So
at the end of that year, when he finally died, it had recurred again. In other words, there was a recurrence,
Oh, sure.
a regrowth. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I guess that's a typical situation.
The whole... These cancers, I gather, are typed. Slow-growing, type 1, fast-growing, type 4. Most aggressive, type 4. When they call the tumor a GBM, glioblastoma multiforme, they, by definition, call it a type 4.
Yeah, mine actually, they in the last analysis, they've decided to call it a geosarcoma multiforme, and they say this it's a fine line between the sarcoma and the blastoma, but there's the cell structures or whatever, when they look at it in biopsy analysis, it's over on the side where they will call it a sarcoma, and it doesn't really, apparently doesn't change the therapy, it just changes the name. But I'll take
it could change the prognosis. It could change your chances.
Seemingly not, from what they told me anyway.
Well,
it wasn't like, we've got good news for you, it's a sarcoma. It's just like, well, you know, this is technically, we're going to call it a sarcoma.
But you're in a good position. It's only on your right frontal lobe, and you say you don't use that at all?
No, it's extra,
so
wasted space there, wasted brain material.
Get rid of it, give it to them, put it in hazardous waste.
Yeah, I think they keep it frozen for 5 years.
Good.
And they're, and I okayed if they want to do anything with it for research, of course that's fine.
Cool. Well, lovely chatting with you, John.
Well, thanks for coming down. This is a really nice lunch and a nice walk in the park.
Nice walk in the park. Wonderful to see you. I'll be checking out on you on a semi-regular basis.
Okay.
And sign off.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Barry.